Hey everybody, it is me, Vincent, and it is Halloween Horror Night season. We are checking out some haunted houses. In this video, we are doing the Behind the Screams Unmasking the Horror tour, a lights on haunted house tour where we are gonna get a first look into some of the original haunted houses for this year's Halloween Horror Nights here in Orlando. From this point on, there will be spoilers. So if you don't wanna get this year's event spoiled for you, I would suggest stopping now. But if you are someone who is doing the Lights On tour or has never heard about it before, this is gonna be a great video to see what it's all about. So welcome to another episode of Vincent Vision. Watch out! So, let's jump right into what a Behind the Screams Unmasking the Horror tour is. This is a specialty tour only offered during Halloween Horror Nights that allows people to walk through some of the haunted houses of this year's event with the lights on. And you don't just walk through them, you get to learn about them as you're getting taken through the mazes with a Universal Orlando RIP tour guide. As an added bonus, you're allowed to take pictures in certain rooms throughout the haunted houses, which is what I like about it the most. There are two different versions of the tour, the 3 house and the 6 house. This video will be covering the 3 house tour, and we're going to be seeing 3 of this year's original houses: Hatchet and Chains, Demon Bounty Hunters, Dolls, Let's Play Dead, and Grave of Flesh. The 6 house tour gets to see houses like Terrifier and Fallout, but unfortunately, none of the tours have access to Five Nights at Freddy's. Just something to keep in mind. The 3 house tour starts at around $100 per person and lasts about 2.5 to 3 hours. There isn't any food included on the tour, but water is offered at the start, so make sure to eat before or immediately after your tour. The start time for a Behind the Screams tour can go as early as 8:30 a.m. and go all the way into the afternoon before the event starts. It's important to mention that these only happen on days that HHN is going on, and not usually on a Monday or Tuesday. The check-in process for this year's tour is a little different too. In years past, your day started at the former Blue Man Group Theater. With the closure and demolition of Rip Ride Rockit, getting there was going to be a little trickier than usual. Instead, now you head over to the VIP tour lobby where you get sent upstairs and begin there. We got seated at our table where we were given an Unmasking the Horror tour lanyard and a pin unique to the tour that we were doing. This is also where you will get your receiver and earpiece, as this is an information-heavy tour and they want you to be able to hear all the fun facts your guide is going to give you. Our guide for this tour was Harry, and we had a great time learning about the event from him, and we also feel like we got a little extra lucky because our group was so small. There were 5 of us, and these tours usually run about 12 people. But now that you know everything you need to know, let's get ready to see some haunted houses. All the photos from here on out in this video will be mega spoilers for this year's event and may feature some blood and guts and disturbing imagery, but if you've made it this far into the video, that's probably what you're looking for anyway. So our first house that we got to see on this tour was Hatchet and Chains Demon Bounty Hunters. Now, I think whenever you talk about Hatchet and Chains, you gotta give a little bit of a history lesson, because last year there was a haunted house known as Slaughter Cinema 2 that actually featured Hatchet and Chains as a room in the haunted house. So with that one little room that existed last year, they have created a full-on haunted house, and that is what we're experiencing this year at Halloween Horror Nights. So Hatchet and Chains Demon Bounty Hunters is a haunted house out in the tents. So this is towards the back of the park near Men in Black. And usually what's really nice about these sets of haunted houses is that they can do a really great job building a big outdoor facade. Last year in this location, there was Museum Deadly Exhibits, which had a really great entrance. Hatchet and Chains, in my opinion, is even cooler. You are entering this western town, and there are all these dead bodies laying around with their guts all spilled out. This well here, according to the Universal Orlando blog, is actually called Hell's Well, and this is where the demons from the haunted house come out from. There's actually a character that we're going to meet at the entrance of the haunted house that causes all this trouble for Hatchet and Chains, and her name is Grandma Haggerty. She is the one who summoned the lava demons, and she is expected to be sitting right here on this chair. A fun thing that you can see in this picture here is that there is an actor trigger right by her foot over there. So the performer sitting at the rocking chair can do her thing and then step on the foot pedal and then lights will flash or like a loud noise will play. This is like a big thing in all of the Halloween Horror Nights haunted houses. Something I thought that was kind of fun. It seemed like there was some leftover caution tape that they were using to prepare the haunted house, and it was actually from TNA Wrestling, which is a wrestling show that they'd film at Universal every so often. I don't think it's going to be in the actual house, but it was just a funny little thing that I noticed while we were out there. But now we are getting ready to head in to the haunted house. And normally when you go through these haunted houses on a lights on tour, even though the lights are on, they can still be pretty dark. But I'm happy to say I've got a really nice fancy camera and I was able to get some really great pictures inside. This is the first room, the mail room, and our tour guide Harry is telling us all about Hatchet and Chains in this room. A recurring motif in the haunted house, since we're kind of following these two characters throughout, is that you are going to see tons of hatchets and tons of chains. These are some of the chains on the roof up above us. So all of the haunted house designers for Halloween Horror Nights kind of have a certain style, and this is the style of a very popular one known as Dylan Kolath. So you may recognize Dylan Kolath's work at Halloween Horror Nights from Dead Man's Pier, Winter's Wake a couple years back, and a little more recent, Blood Moon Dark Offerings. This house is designed a lot like Blood Moon, where you're actually able to see people in the haunted house a little further ahead. And it's not something that you see in a tent house very often, considering usually these are kind of the smaller spaces that they have for the event. So this is a really great way to make this space feel bigger than it actually is. One of the first Easter eggs that Harry showed us while we were in the mail room is all of the people receiving mail. If you look down at the paper over here, you can see a lot of familiar names, including J. Schmidt, Dr. Oddfellow, Mr. Barmy, A. Kane. A lot of these are Halloween Horror Nights icons and characters from the event. Jack Schmidt, Dr. Oddfellow, Albert Kane, Cindy Kane, Barmy from the Barmy Triplets of Terror. A really fun detail that can be very easy to miss while you're going through the actual haunted house. And then the next room that we're getting ready to head into is the horse stables. And on the board where you can see the horses' names, these are actually names of the pets of the art and design team who build the haunted houses. So fun. I thought this was a really cool trick here. You can kind of see the stables with all the props, and you can also see a mirror behind them. This is a really common trick that they use in haunted houses to add more space to certain rooms, and I think it really does help a lot. And this is where we get one of our first sightings of a demon, or at least a prop of a demon. A lot of performers in this haunted house are going to be the demons that Hatchet and Chains are hunting. What was very cool about these demons is that Harry was actually pretty clutch and had a UV flashlight and could show off all of the UV radioactive light that these characters are going to have. This year's code names for the haunted houses are flowers. This is a very common behind-the-scenes fun fact. Every year, while they prepare these haunted houses, they find code names that they can use to file the construction permits for them without giving away what the haunted house is going to be. For Hatchet and Chains Demon Bounty Hunters, it is Carnation, as in, what in tarnation? And I think as we were going through the haunted house, these might have been carnation flowers to kind of pay tribute to the code name. So something fun I want to point out is that this house has, in my opinion, one of my favorite scares. So this is Harry talking about the demon in the fireplace. Can you see the spot where the performer is able to pop out? You probably can't. And then boom, here's Harry showing us how it works. A lot of the times in this haunted house, and in some of the other haunted houses as well, they have flat little panels that look like walls or wood that performers are actually able to pull open and pop out of and catch you off guard. This is a really, really good trick. So the way that the demons possess you in Hatchet and Chains is that they actually enter your body, they enter your skin. And with this mannequin here, we're getting a really good example of what that's gonna be like. As you can see, she's got a pretty big mouth. That is a hole big enough for an actor to stick their arm out through the mouth and get a really good scare. We passed through a couple of really impressive no photo rooms. You know, we don't want to spoil all of the surprises. And then we were led into the Undertaker's room, where we got to see some bodies with coins on their eyes, just like in the olden days. And then the next scene of this haunted house was the schoolhouse. And in my opinion, this is another great example of how the scenic designer Dylan Kolath designs his haunted house, which is like a second facade inside of the haunted house. And that's kind of what we were getting here. This was a big open space inside the tent. There was a cemetery to our right, the schoolhouse up at the front, and as you can see, and you maybe notice in the pictures, they were actually starting to go up on a ramp. That's because as soon as you enter the schoolhouse scene, the floor under you is supposed to light up with red hot lava because they're lava demons. There's another one of those hatchets. Like I said, you're following our heroes all throughout this haunted house, so you're seeing hatchets and chains everywhere. You can see on the left here, there's a big spooky undead horse, and you can kind of see in the back and see the handles where the puppeteer would push it towards us. Since we're in the schoolhouse, there is a chalkboard, And if you look at the teacher's name, it's Miss Carnation, like the code name of the haunted house. Then from here, we went into another big room, and Harry gave us a really, really good example of some visual storytelling, which personally, I don't think a lot of guests going through the house at night are ever going to notice. This is something that you're only ever going to pick up on a lights on tour. Up above us in this room, one of the demons has taken the bodies of one of the ladies from the bathhouse, which we're about to enter. You can see that she's wearing a blue dress and there's a rip in the dress, and maybe she's given it to a lover. Also, this room that we're in, there's a big shootout happening, so there's tons of bullet holes everywhere. And if you look at that window to the left, that is actually the first room of the haunted house. Pretty cool, huh? I like this little cat bell. I thought it was cool. Apparently it's also from Slaughter Cinema last year as a reused prop. Then we enter a room that was also in Slaughter Cinema 2. This wall here with all of the patrons and the keys is a direct copy of the room in Slaughter Cinema 2 that inspired the Hatchet and Chains haunted house. And here's a fun one that I really loved. If you are a fan of Red Dead Redemption 2, this is the train station, and it says Vanderlinde Train Station. Vanderlinde is the last name of one of the characters from Red Dead 2, Dutch Vanderlinde. And this is not going to be the only Red Dead Redemption 2 reference that we see in this house. At this point in the haunted house, there's going to be a big train that the demons are riding on so they can head over and infect the rest of the USA. We're going to be able to see that play out on this screen over here. And then we headed into our last room that we were able to take photos of in this haunted house, where we see a familiar blue fabric wrapped around the neck of a gentleman who has suffered a pretty bad hatchet wound. Now, a really fun detail is that he was writing a journal to his beloved, and in the journal there are the names of two characters from Red Dead Redemption 2. This guy's name is Arthur, and he's writing a letter to Abigail. A really fun reference to the game, more of an Easter egg, just a fun thing that people put in there. This isn't a Red Dead Redemption 2 haunted house or anything like that, but I just thought that'd be fun to point out. Here are some hanging chains on this fun deer head, and then that was the last room we were able to take pictures of inside Hatchet and Chains Demon Bounty Hunters. This haunted house visually was kind of a lot of what I expected it to be, but I think the way that our tour guide Harry described it to us made it sound tons more exciting than I expected. And I'm very much looking forward to experiencing this haunted house with all of its show lighting and performers. It sounds like it's going to be a really, really good time. So the next house on our list was Doll's Let's Play Dead. This is a house that personally I was very excited to see in person because I love the concept of it. I love a good creepy dollhouse. I think it works so well for an event like this. And I'm happy to say that going through this haunted house, it paid off very well. This was a very cool one to see in person. So this is the entrance facade to Doll's Let's Play Dead. It's pretty obvious which haunted house you're going into based off the entrance, but what's really cool is that this big window here is where we are going to get our first introduction to the character known as Lila. Lila is the little girl who controls this dollhouse, and we are toys going into it. And she likes to torture her toys, and that is exactly what you're gonna see as you go through this haunted house. Imagine basically like the weird Barbie from the Barbie movie times 100 in this haunted house. What I love about a Halloween Horror Nights haunted house is when they are able to give you the exact who, what, when, where in the very first room, and I think Doll's Let's Play Dead does that perfectly. As soon as you enter the haunted house, it is evident that you are now the size of a toy, and we are entering Lila's dollhouse. On the right hand side, there's a big ol' electrical plug. There is a mouse trap with a bloody tail, and we might see the rest of that mouse later in the house. And you got some big props and pieces to make you feel like you're a tiny little toy. Something to take note of when you enter the house for the first time, right above the pink door to the dollhouse is the number 34. That is because, of course, this is the 34th year of Halloween Horror Nights. This haunted house is pretty unique as well this year because this has the most amount of guest activated triggers, or GATs as they like to call them. They're basically big buttons that you can press in the haunted house that trigger some special effects. Sometimes they do a little jump scare or they make a sound effect happen. There's one right here at the start of the house. You press this big blue button and you'll hear a message up above saying, "Lila's coming," or something like that. We didn't really know. Then we start to go through this haunted house and see Lila's twisted creations. And this is what I was talking about when I mentioned that like creepy Barbie. This is definitely like a Barbie doll with stuff drawn all over its face, just a big pin through its body. Ellison noticed some really great details, like this vanity with these legs, really creepy stuff. And as you get into the next room, we get to see another one of our guest activated triggers. So Lila has been shaving the heads of her dolls with the whisker tickler, a big shaver, and you can see right over there's a big red button on it. If you press it, something might happen. Something that the whole group had questions about, but I don't think there was really an answer for, was this portrait of the cats. This is something that is all throughout the doll's haunted house, and I think it's just more of like a fun thing, just a fun gag that carries throughout the house. I took a picture of this big Christmas light bulb because it felt like it belonged in Toy Story Land over at Disney. And the batteries that are powering a lot of these toys are from BuzzCon. Now, you may or may not remember, but a couple years back, there was a haunted house called Bugs Eaten Alive, where a company called BuzzCon was creating bug repellent that had too much chemicals in it and made the bugs become alive and big, and they were eating people. This is a fun little reference to that company, and BuzzCon actually makes another appearance at this year's event over in the Mutations Toxic 20 Scare Zone. I so appreciated the floor in this haunted house because I was looking down at it, and it definitely looks like it was spray painted to look like it has that floral pattern. It's a really cool detail that can easily be missed going through the haunted house. Now we enter, in my opinion, one of the coolest rooms in this house, which was the yarn room. And all around the sides of the room are dolls wrapped up in yarn, and some of them are even gonna move and turn their heads and wave their hands. And right in the middle is a big yarn spider, a really cool prop that I loved taking pictures of. If you look at it closely, you can see it's got little pins on its head, it's got its buttons for eyes, and it's even got doll hands for its arms. It is floating above a toy bed with the design of a very specific character. Do you guys know who that is? It's Jack the Clown, a fun little Easter egg that most Horror Nights fans should pick up on pretty quickly as they go through this room. Again, there are those cats. I don't know what they're doing. They're just kind of watching us throughout this haunted house, I guess. And then from here, Lila starts to get a little bit more aggressive with the way that she plays with her toys. She's starting to burn them alive with matches. And this whole room had a bunch of dolls with melted faces. Really, really creepy stuff. This was a unique room in the haunted house as well, where it looked like we were going through an oven, like an easy bake oven. Normally, when they build these haunted houses, they don't build a ceiling above your head, and this room that we were in was very small and very claustrophobic, and I can only assume is going to be lit up in a way where it makes us look like we're getting cooked alive. Now, in this next room, we are getting ready to head under Lila's bed, and in this room is something that I have yet to talk about, which is the secret creature that they keep in all of the Halloween Horror Nights haunted houses. Every year, they hide a different little animal. I think last year it was a frog. This year, it's a lizard. Based off the pictures here, can you guys find that lizard? Do you think you see it? I'll give you a second. There it is. That is the little lizard for this haunted house. And there was one in Hatchet and Chains as well, but it was in a no photos room. So you are just gonna have to find that one on your own. Something I thought was cool as well that I would have not noticed until Harry pointed out to me was the text on the bottom of the big toy box in that very same room is just text from the Halloween Horror Nights website. You can see here it says, Halloween Horror Nights, the world's premier Halloween event. This is not recommended for children under the age of 13. No costumes allowed. Just a little fun detail that can be pretty easy to miss. And then we head under Lila's bed, where it is pretty dark and creepy in here, and right on the right hand side is a big doll face that's expected to lunge out at you. I think this was used in the Dollhouse of the Damned haunted house many years ago, which was also in the tents, but I loved these matches with these doll heads all stitched up. It was super creepy, super weird. Something I thought was pretty funny was that there was this baby Cam toy doll box, and it said green rectangle certified 100%. Doesn't mean anything, it's just a green rectangle. I thought that was funny. This house has a lot of fun props and a lot of great visuals, and I think people are gonna have a really good time with this haunted house. There was one room in particular that we were not able to take pictures in that is going to be pretty freaking awesome. But overall, I was very happy to see Dolls Let's Play Dead in person. It was pretty high up on my anticipated list, and I have to say, it did not disappoint. And then our last house on the tour was Grave of Flesh, and this is in Soundstage 24. This is actually where the Triplets of Terror haunted house was last year. Now, normally I love going through the Soundstage haunted houses on these tours. In my opinion, these sets tend to be the most elaborate, the most grand, and Grave of Flesh had a lot of those moments, but this haunted house is definitely a lot different than what you'd expect from a soundstage haunted house. Grave of Flesh is all about the claustrophobia, and the idea of this haunted house is that we are exploring the afterlife. We're finding out what happens after you die. And in Halloween Horror Nights, it's not like you go to one place or another. It just gets even worse from there, where there are these monsters who are trying to eat your flesh and torture you throughout all of eternity. So I do like this concept that in this haunted house, as soon as we enter, we're actually dead. We're going to our funeral. And it starts here at Hallmouth Cemetery. This was a pretty great facade. I can't wait to see what this looks like during the actual event. I'm expecting it to be dark and stormy and rainy, and you go through the caverns before you head into your grave. Now, I will give one more lizard away. It's actually in this area over here. Do you happen to see it? That's okay. It's pretty hard to find. It's actually right over here. That is the little lizard for this haunted house. Good luck trying to see that during the actual nighttime event. But once we leave the cemetery facade, that's when the haunted house starts to become a lot more like underground. The first scene is us in our graves, and if you look up, you can actually see our tombstone and a tent over it because it's raining. You can tell when there's going to be water effects in a haunted house based off the floor. And if you ever look down and you see kind of that rubbery texture, that means water is going to be involved in some way. So we passed through a couple of no photo rooms, and we started to head deeper into the realm of these Grave of Flesh creatures, which I don't think we got a name for, but Harry described them as looking like star-nosed moles. I'll put a picture of one of those up on the screen now. Pretty creepy. It makes sense that they're underground creatures. But we can see that they've built their lair kind of with the skulls of all the dead bodies that they've collected, all the dead people. And in this room, we got a great example of a classic Halloween Horror Nights trick, which is what they call LexJet. So, it's very simple. From this side of the wall, when you shine a light on it, it looks like it's part of the actual wall. But if you shine a light from behind, like Harry is doing in this photo over here, you'll actually be able to see the performer behind the glass. This is something that they have done in a bunch of different Halloween Horror Nights haunted houses, and they're doing it here in Grave of Flesh. Overall, out of all the haunted houses that we saw on this tour, Grave of Flesh definitely had the most tricks, which I think is going to be really important to make this haunted house super, super intense. Something I love to see in these Lights On tours too is the jump from the set of the haunted house to sort of the real world of the soundstage. And this picture is a really good example of it, where you can see the Grave of Flesh set, and right above it are black curtains. So these black curtains serve a bunch of practical purposes. One of them is to block out light from other scenes, and also to block out sound. This year, Grave of Flesh is sharing the soundstage with the queue for it. So they want to block out all the sounds that are coming from the haunted house, which is normally pretty loud, with these black curtains. As you can see, the architecture is starting to become more human here in the caverns. Some pillars, some kind of frames and things like that. And now we're starting to see some dead bodies, some mutilated bodies. Ooh, you know, that's kind of a lot of what this haunted house was. It was all different types of dead bodies, corpses and skeletons and halfway there bodies. And this was a really fun room, and honestly I'm pretty proud of my camera for capturing this, because this whole section of the haunted house was really darn dark. We were entering through what they call the processor, the meat grinder. These pieces are going to have moving things where it looks like lights coming through them, but this hallway in particular with all this hanging stuff is pitch black, and I think there's going to be like blinking UV lights. But as we were going through it on the Lighthouse tour, this was like the darkest room of the entire day. This is also a great example of what they call SIF, stuff in face. They like to hang things off the ceiling, whether it be intestines like this room over here, or little tiny strings, just to distract you or disorient you, to catch you off guard so that a performer can pop out and scare you. Then we entered what was one of the coolest rooms in Grave of Flesh, and it was this big MC Escher nightmare haunted mansion style room with all these different stairs. You can see on the top stairs above you that the blood is flowing upwards, and it's going to be really cool and really disorienting. I think this has the potential to be one of the most memorable rooms in Grave of Flesh. Another great Halloween Horror Nights trick was right over here, and it's called the Grommel Scare. So it's kind of hard to tell in this photo, but there's actually a big mirror on the wall, and it's designed in a way where you're walking down the hall, you see the mirror, and it looks like the performer is coming to you directly head on, but they're actually coming at you from a completely different angle, and the mirror is just using it to set you up a really, really great skill created for this event. And then we entered a big room, and this room is going to be all blue and all neon, and this is what Harry called the suffocation room. There's a lot of bodies all along the wall that were being suffocated by this fabric, and there's going to be performers in fabric in here as well, distracting you while the monsters pop out in secret corners. This is a room that I definitely want to see with its show lights on, because I think this has the potential to be really, really cool. And then one of the last rooms in this haunted house was this hallway that had these big mirrors, and this is kind of similar to the Grommel scare, where they use these mirrors to disorient you, kind of confuse you. You can see even in the picture here that I'm in the mirror, and if I'm looking at that, I'm going, hey, is that me? That's a perfect opportunity for a performer to pop out and get right up in my face and scare me good. And then the last scene of the haunted house is us re-emerging from the underground, and you can see above us there's a lot of big open spaces with some skeletons kind of watching over us. Looks like we have died in this haunted house, and there's no happy ending for us. And then just one last little picture of Harry, our guide. He did such a great job. It was so fun going through the haunted houses with him. And that is really all I've got for Grave of Flesh.
And we are out of the park. For these lights on tours, you actually don't need park admission. You start your day at the VIP lobby, and then you end your day at the VIP lobby. So they kind of send you back out into City Walk. But we had a great time. In total, it was about 2.5 hours for the tour itself. If you are someone who loves Halloween Horror Nights, wants to learn more about this event, or even like some people in our group, maybe a little too afraid of Halloween Horror, a little timid about Halloween Horror Nights, and kind of want to still experience the haunted houses, but not like be freaking out in the middle of them. You know what I mean? You get to see haunted houses that maybe you weren't super excited about. You get to see them, and it kind of changes your opinion and your perspective, and kind of rearranges. You know, I had a video about like my most anticipated haunted house. Things might have changed based off of the things that I have now seen about those haunted houses. I mean, what did you think, Ellison?
No, I definitely agree. Like, for example, the Dolls Let's Play Dead, I was okay with. I didn't know, I mean, I just kind of figured it was going to be simple about dolls, like creepy dolls, like Chucky. But now, that definitely, after walking through that house, and like, for me, and I know I've said it before in the previous times that we've done this, but it still stands, that like you can just tell so much passion and hard work, and you just see it in these houses.
Yeah, incredibly well said. The Lights On Tour is a really great experience if you are a Halloween Horror Nights fan. It is something I would recommend. There is a 6-house tour version of what we just did where you see even more haunted houses. So if that's something that you're interested in, that might be a really, really great option as well. But apart from that, we are going to get on out of here. It is still daytime. Thank you guys for watching another VincentVision. We hope you enjoyed this. Be prepared for more Halloween Horror Nights videos this season, and we will see you at the next one. Bye-bye. In the fog. We'll see you in the fog next week.
Actually, 6 days.
Very, very soon.
6 days is Premium Scream.
Bye, guys.